Hello there and good afternoon to L24 News, streaming live from the capital Algiers, and coming up next in our news program. Ukrainian forces battled Russian forces on three sides on Thursday after Moscow unleashed the biggest attack on European states since the World War II, prompting tens of thousands of people to flee their homes. The 24th of February marked an important history in Europe and in the world when Russia decided launching a military operation in its neighboring Ukraine. Despite weeks of warnings, Russia's February 24th decision to launch a military operation over Ukraine caught much of the world by surprise, initiating what is believed to be the biggest attack on European states since the World War II also. Thousands joined anti-war protests in Russia after Ukraine attack. Police make more than 1,700 arrests and protesters take to the streets in cities across the country. Hello again and welcome to L24 World Latest. After Russia has launched a military operation on Thursday in Ukrainian by land, air and sea, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a statement today where he said that enemy sabotage groups entered Kiev and that the plans to remain despite being Russia's #1 target.
According to our information, the enemy marked me as target #1, my family as target #2. They want to destroy Ukraine politically by destroying the head of state. We have information that enemy sabotage groups have entered Kiev.
Videos posted by Ukrainian ground forces show multiple explosions in the Ukrainian capital and in Kiev early on Friday. Ukraine's operational command said its anti-aircraft defenses were attacking Russian aircraft and drones. Ukraine also claimed to have shot down a Russian aircraft over the capital, while the hundreds of thousands of people are trying to flee out in a car, by foot, as well as by bicycles. The 24th of February marked an important history in Europe and in the world when Russia decided launching a military operation in its neighboring Ukraine. The event during the 24 hours escalated rapidly. In this report, we will have a summary of the key moments to this event. My name is Nabil Khazini.
Yesterday morning, Ukrainians woke up with this sound. The siren, which indicated something serious was happening in the country. This footage shows the Russian army entering neighboring Ukraine. Following that, the Russian President Vladimir Putin gave a speech where he declared his country started a military operation in Ukraine.
I decided to conduct special military operation. It aims to protect people who have been bullied and subjected to genocide by Kiev regime for 8 years.
Army on the ground, helicopters on the Ukrainian sky, a scene which of course would threaten a head of state who has to face a superpower with unnoticeable help on field up to now. Volodymyr Zelensky addressed his nation.
Today, I ask the 27 leaders of Europe whether Ukraine will be in NATO. I ask directly. Everyone is afraid. They don't want to answer.
Several explosions were heard. The strikes quickly spread across central and eastern Ukraine. Most of the targets were military bases, but there were also substantial damage in and around several cities. 137 civilians and military personnel had been killed in the country on the first day. 316 people had been injured. While the roads in the Ukrainian cities were overcrowded with a stream of cars as thousands of people started leaving their country, and as many as 100,000 are internally displaced after fleeing their homes, and the biggest fear of war in Europe since World War II.
And to have a clear idea over what is happening in the field ground of this conflict, I'm joined live via Skyboard from Kiev by Ukrainian journalist Ksenia Tabaka. Ksenia, hello over there. What can you tell us about the latest in Kiev?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but first of all, I would like to correct because I'm not in Kiev. In Kiev, I'm in Kharkiv right now. Uh, as for the information on Kiev, yes, like at 4 a.m. they've been like trying to bomb the capital of the city, and our militaries they got to cut that plane, and uh, it crashed at the building where civilians live. There were like huge fire from fourth till ninth floor, if I'm not mistaken, and it's just awful. There are like many injured people. I'm not sure about the dead right now, just after this explosion. But lots of people like are in critical condition, and yeah, and right now they are trying to enter Kiev like through all the possible ways.
I'm saying that what about the speech of the President Vladimir Zelensky? He says that we stopped the invasion or the military operation by the Russian troops. Will that be really comfortable to citizens of Ukraine?
You mean like, is the information correct that we stopped the invasion? If it's their question, then yes, they stopped it like in the morning, but still like there are like huge fights and everything. As for the people in Ukraine and like President Zelensky, I think the majority of people like supporting him, especially me. I'm like fully support him, and I fully like truly believe that he can like handle this situation, because it wasn't our side who invaded. We were like at home, and they just like everything which Russia says on media. This is like extremely important. It's like fake. They say that they want to like hold some peaceful operation, that they are just targeting like military objects. It's not true. Right now, like since today morning, they are bombing all the cities. Like in Kharkiv, where I'm currently located, they are bombing like the center of the city. We have like a huge park, like Gorky Park. There have been like bombing there. They've bombing like different parts of like cities. They're bombing Melitopol, Mariupol. They are bombing like almost everything. Also, they
Ksenia,
were. They invaded.
The most important question is there any casualties within the citizens in Ukraine?
Yes, like since yesterday, there were like 137 people injured and like killed. But I think that it's how can you say that the information is not quite correct, because there are like much more killed, like between militaries and between like civilians.
Okay, Ksenia, taking into consideration the statistics given, people in Ukraine are fleeing out their homes. Can we witness a full evacuation from Kiev, especially the capital?
Again, like I know that trains are working. There is no evacuation, like exactly from the government, but a railway station is working, trains are working. So yeah, like there are lots of people who are trying to get like to Lviv, and then like from Lviv maybe like to Poland, and like people who are trying to get to Moldova. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Ksenia. I really appreciate your clarification. And now for a different topic, the Russian military launches a land, air and sea invasion of multiple cities across Ukraine. As the Ukrainian foreign minister says, Kiev is under bombardments from Russian rockets and attacks on Kiev, with cruise and ballistic missiles had resumed, and that he had here two powerful explosions. World leaders have condemned the invasion and promised to retaliate with increased sanctions as they considered Russian invasion as an aggression and a threat to the peace of the European continent.
No, there are no NATO combat troops, NATO troops at all inside Ukraine. We have made it clear that we don't have any plans and intention of deploying NATO troops to Ukraine. What we have made clear is that we have already increased and we are increasing the presence of NATO troops in the eastern part of the alliance on NATO territory.
We're sincerely sorry that two countries which we consider to be friends, Russia and Ukraine, and with which we have close political, economic and social relations, are clashing in this way.
With new financial measures, we're taking new powers to target Russian finance, in addition to the banks we've already sanctioned this week. Today, in concert with the United States, we are imposing a full asset freeze on VTB.
European leaders met into the early hours of Friday morning to reach an agreement on fresh sanctions aimed at hurting the Russian economy and putting President Vladimir Putin under enormous strain as his forces march into Ukraine in a reaction to Mr. Putin's acknowledgement of separatist territories in Ukraine. The bloc's 27 members were able to impose a first set of penalties on Wednesday, and they did it in record time. President Joe Biden announced severe new sanctions against Russia on February 24th in response to its full scale of the military action of Ukraine. The new U.S. sanctions will hit Russia's VTR bank, cutting it from the U.S. financial system, adding that other new sanctions will hit Russian obligard and its technology sector. Samayed.
President Joe Biden on Thursday unveiled harsh new sanctions on Russia, meant to punish the country for its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, calling out Russian President Vladimir Putin for his aggression, even as he acknowledged it would take time for the new measures to alter Putin's behavior. The new sanctions include export blocks on technology, a centerpiece of Biden's approach that he said would severely limit Russia's ability to advance its military and aerospace sector. He also applied sanctions on Russian banks and corrupt billionaires and their families who are close to the Kremlin.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences. Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact on the United States and our allies.
Biden said the sanctions were designed to have a long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact to the United States and its allies. And he said Washington was prepared to do more. The new sanctions targets are not limited to Russia. The U.S. also went after individuals in Belarus, including the country's defense minister, for the country's role in facilitating the Russian attack.
As I made crystal clear, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory with the full force of American power.
Biden announced a new deployment of ground and air forces to NATO's eastern flank, even as he reiterated U.S. troops would not engage in direct conflict in Ukraine. Biden insisted his threat to directly sanction Putin remains on the table and is not a bluff, but he didn't answer when asked why he hasn't directly sanctioned the Russian president yet.
Russia dearly.
Waves of drowning stayed due to the remarkable rising and accumulation of problems of the world's greatest economies, with the record and parallel inflation rates for decades. Sufyan Katouri.
On the other side of the Atlantic, the fragments of the war which broke out on the line of contact between Russia and the West arrived quickly. And inside the United States, concerns about high prices of energy charges preceded the news of ground developments of Russian military operation in Ukraine.
The problem with the Ukraine will affect not only America, it will affect all Europe, because the gas price is going to go higher. When everything go higher, it's going to affect the life standard. It's going to be high inflation. And there's going to be, especially the cab driver will be affected more than anybody, because that's what we do for a living.
Abdullah, cab driver outside Washington's major railway station, isn't the only one concerned about green fuel prices. His colleague Abbas admits the spike that comes 2 weeks before the war in Eastern Europe.
It already started increasing. A regular gas 2 weeks ago, I paid $3.25. No, yeah, $3.25. Today it's $3.66. And
Intercept County, tens of truckers will park in the rest area with big fears of the economic changes caused by the Russian military operation on Ukraine. Many truck drivers blamed US government for reaching such an economic crisis.
I don't, as far as the tactics of Ukraine and fuel going up and all that stuff, I don't know as to why the price has to go up. We're supposed to have all this abundance of fuel over here in America. We're supposed to be self-sufficient, so I don't know why the prices go up. I don't know. But as far as us as
The repercussions of the Ukrainian war touched the American economy and caused waves of fears in the States by unusual increasing and the accumulation of the troubles of the largest economies in the world with a record and unprecedented inflation rates for 4 decades.
After the military operation led by Russia, the international community reacts to the Russian move and urged Moscow to withdraw from Ukraine and consider negotiations. Mrimzian.
In many countries, thousands of protesters took the streets to rally against the Russian military operation. Thousands of people demonstrated in Moscow and St. Petersburg against the incursion launched on Thursday by Vladimir Putin, which resulted in more than 1,700 arrests in several Russian cities.
What happened today is a shame. Many of us have relatives and friends in Ukraine, and it is a betrayal to them.
In the United States, about 200 demonstrators, mostly Ukrainians, gathered in Times Square and marched in the streets of New York against the Russian special military operation in their native country.
I expect the international community to step in and help Ukraine. It's very important that we receive all the help that is needed, not only sanctions, but all the help that the international community can give us at this moment. It's very important, the reaction. Everybody should be reacting right now.
In Paris, nearly 3,000 demonstrators carrying blue and yellow flags or flowers in hand were gathered on Thursday evening in Place de la République, whereas hundreds of people had already gathered earlier in front of the Russian embassy in Paris, as well as in other major French cities. In London, a few hundred demonstrators, mostly Ukrainians, gathered outside the offices of Prime Minister Boris Johnson in Downing Street. And in Chile, dozens of demonstrators gathered in San Diego in solidarity with Ukraine.
Scary when you feel that you can't really do anything, we are trying to do something, our part here.
After Russia launched a military operation, thousands of people from Russia to Paris, to London and the US rallied in support of Ukraine.
And now let's have a look over the international news within the economic sector by Marwa Blaour.
Boris Johnson has said that a vast invasion is underway, by land, by sea and by air in Ukraine, as he promised to impose massive sanctions that would hobble the Russian economy. Speaking as world leaders scrambled to respond to the attacks that began early on Thursday, the UK Prime Minister said Russia had attacked a friendly country without any provocation and without any credible excuse.
Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy.
Oil prices rose today amid investor concerns over tightening supplies as Russia's military operation in Ukraine entered its second day. The price of Brent crude oil rose by more than 2% to $100 a barrel as fighting appeared to intensify near the Ukrainian capital Kiev. But stock markets in Europe and Asia rebounded as investors assessed Western sanctions on Russia. All the New York directors closed in positive territory after sliding sharply at the start of the session. The Dow Jones crept 0.3% higher, while the S&P 500 gained 1.5%, And the tech-heavy Nasdaq railed dramatically from its earlier torpor to finish more than 3% ahead. Wall Street's rebound came after US President Joe Biden announced tough sanctions on Russia. Canada has announced more sanctions against Russia following its military operation in Ukraine.
Today, in light of Russia's reckless and dangerous military strike, we are imposing further severe sanctions.
The sanctions targeted 62 individuals and entities, including members of the Russian elite, not major Russian banks, and cancelling all export permits.
To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Catch you later for further details. Peace.